Have you ever thought about how makeup works beyond its typical purpose? My name's Jasmine and I'm currently working on a piece called Makeup as a Literal Art, and it's all about how we use makeup to create something entirely new. I attended a makeup, body art and SFX show a few weeks back where I got to listen to a professional in the SFX business, Stuart Bray. His work's been featured in many film sets like The Game of Thrones and Shaun of the Dead. I heard him speak on perfecting the look of a prosthetic nose to share it with all of you listening.
Prosthetics are not your friend. They won't necessarily help you out. They should, but they don't. So there's always going to be the potential that the thing you stick on doesn't stick on. So I always kind of clean the pieces and my skin before I go.
After he talks about the difficulties that come along with prosthetics, Stuart begins to explain how he actually manages to stick on the nose and the products that he uses.
Normally when I stick the nose on, I'm going to use Beta Bond, which is my hair of choice. I really like that. I'm going to use a brush to put my glue on. So I'm going to put all the glue on that I think I need now, and then I'll just to hell with it. Let's see what happens. The trouble is it takes time for the glue to dry, and then if you're waiting for each piece to dry, you're going to be there for a long time. The trouble is, with noses, they're such awkward things to glue in place. So I'm going to go a little bit heavier than I would normally do with the glue here, because I want to make sure that that's really in there. We already know the glue has got to be inside that nostril area. What I don't like to do is stick the piece on and then have to peel the piece back, get inside the nostrils, get the glue in there, hold the piece away, put the thing down, get the hairdryer.
So glue seems to be very tricky to work with, especially on this particular part of the face. He tells us what to do if a piece of prosthetic is alcohol based, which may make it even harder to stick down those edges.
If your piece has alcohol-based characteristic, you're a fool. But if it does, then wash it with soap and water. But if it's acetone-based, then I would use alcohol to clean it. Although having said that, be very careful, because if you've got really, really thin edges, even though it's acetone-based characteristic, you might find that alcohol and enough friction will kill those edges too.
It's important to know what tools to use when handling prosthetics like this, and of course how to use them.
I'm going to use a smoking brush. I'm going to find the corner of my sculpt, get to the corner of that nose. And they're pressure sensitive, these glues. So if you're gentle and you don't like it, you can peel it out without too much harm. But if you press it really firmly, it tends to grip. If they're so soft, they just hang like a dead jellyfish. So handling it and getting it in the right place is quite tricky. But if it's not soft enough, it doesn't move very well.
With this in mind, Stuart explains to us the do's and don'ts of working with this particular piece of prosthetic.
I think what's nice is when you see a lot of finished makeups, they're either in magazines or they're on a screen, and they've been either tweaked digitally or they're lit very, very favourably. They never really get the chance to scrutinise.
So, in terms of colour matching, it must be really difficult to make the nose look realistic. Here he explains how to perfect the colour.
The real secret really is to figure out where your piece is going to land, glue beyond it, stick it down with the flashing as much as possible. The hardest thing I think with colouring is being able to put a small enough amount on to make kind of a nice fleshy brown colour. But again, really, really thin washes. If you dabby, you press it on and then you come away and go somewhere else. Then you come back till it's dry and then you have another layer. But the idea is the amount of pigment in that mix is so small. When I put one dot on there, you almost can't see it. Often a normal, healthy person is dark around the eyes, dark around the corner of the nose, and red on the cheeks than the forehead. The forehead might have a bit more sun because it kind of sticks out and catches the light. So you're going to have to put things in certain places, and I think a lot of people get stuck where they treat the nose as one thing. So they put one colour over everything, and they can't get the right colour because it isn't one colour. And also, a really good thing to do is to look at your own nose in the mirror beforehand. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to match the redness of the skin around it, particularly on the underside of the nose. If you don't get that right, often it's very masky, and people are often afraid to kind of commit a noticeable colour change, especially around the eyes.
Messing up colour or even the prosthetic in general might seem like the end of the world for some, but Stuart explains how to handle these situations and why they may happen.
I'm always quite happy to show if I've screwed something up, because there are lots of reasons why it can happen. And so the job is really to figure out what it was. But it's kind of sitting with that discomfort, like, oh, it's gone wrong, what can it be? And, trying to solve the problem.
But how do you actually solve the problem, you might ask? He tells us different techniques that may turn these wrongs into rights.
You can either get an airbrush spatter nozzle, or you can drop pressure right down and put the needle back, and then you get this kind of big spurts, which is quite nice. The trick is to make sure your paint is really thin down, so that there is a splotch, it's not that thick pigment. The other thing I've been able to paint that is I always keep a sponge or a brush on standby, so if there is a blob I don't like, I can kind of dab it whilst it's there.
As a professional in the field, Stuart uses makeup to give his work a sense of definition and reality. His teachings are available on his Instagram platform, which is under the username Stuart Bray 73. This is a brilliant way for those who are interested to learn more about him and his work. Thank you.